Ethan Cole came to the abandoned alien outpost because he wanted silence, not adventure. And he believed that the edge of the galaxy was the only place quiet enough to bury his past. So when his small ship landed on the cracked metal platform of Outpost K-47, he felt relief instead of fear, because the station was dead, cold, and forgotten, floating above a red and broken planet that no one cared about anymore. And as he walked through its wide halls filled with dust and ancient markings, he told himself that nothing here could surprise him after the wars he had survived. Wars where human ships burned and friends died screaming in space. Wars that taught him how loud the universe could be when it wanted to kill you, and that was why he chose this place. Because it was quiet, because no one else wanted it, because it felt like the end of the road, and for several weeks it stayed that way, with Ethan fixing old power lines, opening sealed rooms, and slowly bringing parts of the station back to life just enough to breathe, eat, and sleep, while the alien walls watched him without moving, as if waiting, and on the day everything changed. Ethan was standing on the outer platform, looking at the red sun rising over the planet, thinking that maybe he could finally rest, when space itself seemed to tear open above him, folding and twisting like broken glass. And from that wound in the sky came massive alien warships, dark and sharp, moving with slow confidence, their shadows covering the stars, and in that moment Ethan knew the quiet was over, because he had seen ships like that before. Not these exact ones, but the kind that meant death, the kind that never came without a reason, and before he could even run back inside, warning alarms he did not know existed began to scream through the outpost, shaking the metal under his feet, while deep lights ignited along the walls and symbols glowed with sudden life, and Ethan felt a cold weight in his chest as the first alien weapons fired at the planet, their energy beams striking the station's surface, yet instead of tearing through it, the outpost's shield rose on its own, smooth and strong, catching the attack as if it were nothing. And Ethan stood frozen, staring in disbelief, because he knew no human shield could do that. Not even close, and as more shots hit and failed, the station responded like a waking giant, with doors sliding open, floors shifting, and machines rising from hidden places, while a deep voice echoed through the halls, first in a strange alien sound and then in clear, perfect human language, telling him that a human had been identified, which sent a shock through Ethan's mind because he was alone. He was supposed to be invisible, and yet the station knew exactly what he was. And when the voice said that the Defense Corps was online, Ethan ran through the corridors, his boots hitting the floor hard as he followed the lights deeper into the outpost, past rooms he had never opened and machines older than Earth's oldest nations, until he reached a vast chamber where a massive alien figure formed from light appeared before him, tall and sharp, its eyes burning like distant stars, and it told him that this outpost was not a home or a shelter, but a weapon, built long ago to fight enemies so powerful they were once called gods. And Ethan felt his fear mix with something else, something dangerous, because for the first time since the war ended, he felt useful again. And outside the station, the alien fleet continued to gather, confident and hungry, unaware that the place they attacked was waking up. And as the alien ships prepared to land troops and tear the outpost apart, Ethan placed his hands on an ancient control surface that reshaped itself to fit him, reacting to his touch, learning him, and in that moment he understood that the station was waiting for someone like him, someone broken enough to stay, someone skilled enough to fight, someone human enough to take risks no machine would choose. And while the alien ships moved closer, their commanders certain that a lone human could not matter, Ethan looked at the stars one last time and accepted the truth that his fresh start was not going to be peaceful, That running away had only led him to the center of something far bigger than himself. And as the Outpost's weapons charged and the alien fleet crossed the line of no return, Ethan whispered that if the universe wanted a fight, then it had chosen the wrong human to corner. Because humans did not survive by being stronger or faster, but by refusing to give up. And the abandoned alien outpost, silent for ages, roared to life with him at its heart, marking the moment when one man's search for peace became the first spark of a war that would decide the fate of humanity. Ethan Cole had barely grasped the power of the alien outpost before the true scale of the threat became clear. Because the ships he had seen at the edge of the planet were only the scouts of the Tsar Dominion, an ancient and merciless species that had conquered countless worlds, leaving nothing behind but silence and ruin. And now their attention had turned to humanity, a species they had barely noticed before, but one that had grown fast, stubborn, and dangerous in their eyes. And as reports reached Earth and the colonies, panic spread through human civilization because the fleets that had once defended them were no match for the Tsar, their weapons melting human ships as if they were paper. And yet, in the midst of the despair, the impossible happened. A Tsar fleet simply disappeared, leaving sensors baffled and the Dominion confused, as if some unseen hand had struck them down. And the origin of this disappearance was traced back to Outpost K-47, a dead station no one had believed contained anything more than old alien machinery. And suddenly Ethan was no longer a man hiding from his past. He was a linchpin in humanity's survival, the operator of a weapon far beyond any human design. And the outpost itself began to awaken fully under his touch, responding to his decisions, moving parts of itself as if it understood his intentions, while he learned its secrets, guiding energy flows, redirecting defenses, and testing systems that could vaporize entire fleets with a thought. And the Tsar returned with greater force, thousands of ships forming dark lines across the stars, their living metal bodies moving with precision and deadly grace, firing beams and missiles that could disintegrate planets if left unchecked. And Ethan's hands flew across the controls, eyes sharp, mind calculating, improvising moves that no one else could. Because humans survived on cunning and creativity, not brute force, and one by one, the Dominion's ships began to fall as the outpost reacted to Ethan's orders, opening hidden turrets, firing gravity weapons, and turning the enemy's own fire against them, while the Dominion adapted quickly, changing formations, targeting the outpost's weak points, sending reinforcements and boarding ships, thinking perhaps they could overwhelm a single human mind, and yet Ethan kept pace, pushing systems beyond limits, risking explosions, and improvising tactics that made no sense to an alien intelligence designed for order, which caused confusion and hesitation among the attackers. And in the middle of the chaos, Ethan discovered that the outpost could do more than just defend itself. It could learn, adapt, and integrate new strategies based on the enemy's behavior. And as he experimented, the Tsar escalated the attack, revealing their deadliest weapon, a world devourer, a living moon-sized entity that could consume energy and destroy entire planets, approaching with a destructive hunger unlike anything humanity had ever faced. And the outpost trembled under the anticipation of its arrival, warning lights flashing, power cores glowing red, while the alien AI inside spoke slowly, its voice filled with a rare kind of concern, telling Ethan that if he activated the core's full overload, the outpost would be destroyed along with the devourer, and that he would not survive the blast. And for a moment he hesitated, thinking of the people on Earth, the colonies, the fleets that had already fallen, and the message he wanted to leave. And then he realized that this was exactly why humans survived, because when everything seemed lost, someone had to make the impossible choice, Someone had to stand and fight when retreat was the only safe path. And he accepted that responsibility, channeling every ounce of knowledge, courage, and experience into the outpost, rerouting power, locking targets, and preparing the ultimate trap for the world devourer, while simultaneously sending all data back to humanity, designs for weapons, shields, strategies that would allow humans to rebuild and strike back. And as the massive creature entered the system, consuming light and matter as it approached the planet, Ethan initiated the overload, feeling the station shake violently as energy cascaded through every conduit, the ground trembling, the lights flickering, and the outpost roaring like a living being as it met the monstrous devourer head-on. The creature's screams echoing across space as beams, pulses, and waves of destructive force collided in a spectacle of power no human had ever seen. And in that chaotic, violent dance of death, Ethan watched the creature shatter, its body tearing apart as the outpost channeled the full energy of its core in one final act of sacrifice. And as silence fell over the system, the Tsar Dominion fleet scattered in confusion and fear, realizing that their mightiest weapon had been destroyed by one human operating a forgotten alien outpost, and for the first time in history, the invaders who had never lost before were fleeing, proving that human ingenuity, courage, and refusal to surrender could overcome even the most overwhelming odds. And though the outpost had been badly damaged, and though Ethan knew he might not survive, he understood that humanity now had a chance, because the data he had sent would allow fleets to rebuild, weapons to improve, and humans to finally stand as equals against ancient enemies. And in those hours of triumph and exhaustion, as the system slowly quieted, Ethan smiled faintly, realizing that the quiet he had once sought was no longer necessary, because he had found purpose, he had found action, and he had proven that even when the universe seemed determined to erase humanity, humans could still survive, could still fight, and could still write their own destiny. After the destruction of the world devourer and the retreat of the Tsar fleets, the galaxy seemed to breathe again. But for humanity, the fight had only just begun, because while one battle had been won, the war had left scars on every planet, every colony, and every human heart, and as news of Ethan's actions at Outpost K-47 spread across space, humans began to see themselves not as weak prey, but as survivors capable of standing against impossible odds. And the data he had sent, weapon designs, defense systems, and strategies that integrated alien technology with human ingenuity became the foundation of a new era for Earth's fleets, allowing engineers, soldiers, and commanders to rebuild faster and smarter than any enemy expected. While scientists studied the alien AI that had awakened under Ethan's guidance, learning how to adapt, think, and even predict enemy movements. And though the outpost had been heavily damaged in the final battle, what remained of it became a symbol, a place of memory and instruction, where humans could test their new technologies and strategies, knowing that one day they might need to face the Tsar again. Years passed, and humanity grew stronger. Fleets that had been broken now moved like storms through space, reclaiming colonies, defending planets, and pushing further into systems that had once been abandoned or lost, all the while inspired by the story of a single man who had stood alone against the impossible. A man who had reminded them of what humans were capable of. And as new pilots trained, soldiers drilled, and engineers built, Ethan's legend became something greater than personal achievement. It became a collective heartbeat, a constant reminder that when humans refused to give up, nothing was truly unbeatable. And when scouts reported scattered Tsar activity at the edges of explored space, humanity did not panic, because they knew that even the ancient Dominion, with all its fleets, could be challenged. that courage, creativity, and unity could overcome brute force. And slowly, planet by planet, system by system, humanity advanced, not just to reclaim what was lost, but to make sure that no species could ever see them as weak again, and the Tsar Dominion, once feared as unstoppable, learned caution, hesitated before attacks, and even fled when confronted. Because humans had demonstrated that they did not fight like any other race in the galaxy, they fought with heart, with instinct, and with an unshakable refusal to surrender. Meanwhile, the ruins of Outpost K-47 floated in orbit over its broken planet, partially repaired, partially shattered, a monument to sacrifice and ingenuity, and carved into its remaining metal surfaces was a simple human message that spread across human colonies as a motto and warning: we do not seek war, but if you bring it to us, we will end it. And this message became a promise and a beacon, showing that humanity had learned from its near destruction and was now capable of meeting any threat with courage and resolve. And though Ethan himself disappeared into legend, whether alive or gone, the AI he had awakened remained, studying humans, understanding them, and learning from them, realizing for the first time in its long existence that humans were not just another species. They were something different, something unpredictable, and something to be respected. And as fleets moved confidently through reclaimed space, as colonies flourished under protection and guidance, and as the memory of the world devourer faded into cautionary tales, humanity stood tall, united, and vigilant, forever changed by the bravery of one man and the awakening of a long-forgotten alien outpost, proving that even in the darkest hour, when the universe seemed determined to destroy them, humans could rise, rebuild, and turn defeat into victory, and in doing so, they rewrote their destiny, becoming a force that no enemy could underestimate, a civilization that would forever fight, survive, and thrive, carrying with them the lessons of courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will of a single human who had faced the impossible and won.